Hi, SAS listeners. Welcome to another episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast, coming to you from the Long Valley Studio in Washington, Utah. I'm your host, Dave Markel, and this is episode 152. This week, I'm honored to bring you a courageous and exceptionally strong guest, Johnny Braun. Johnny was brave enough to reach out to me on Instagram and told me that he was available to be on this show and that he was a victim of childhood sexual assault. As usual, there was some back and forth communications, but it was very evident to me from very early on that I was going to ask him to be a guest on this show. This episode is about a topic we've covered before, but not covered enough: male sexual assault and rape. Johnny is compelling and enthralling in telling his story, and I'm glad he was brave enough to do this. Don't skip this episode. It's too important. Let's get to it. Here's Johnny. Hey, SAS listeners, I am really honored and pleased to have with me today Johnny Braun. Johnny, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So that my audience knows, Johnny reached out to me
I believe it was on Instagram. I think I DM'd you.
Yeah. But Johnny said he'd been listening to the show for a while, that it had been helpful to him, and he wanted to reach out and thank me and to also say, hey, I'm ready to be on the show if you ever need a guest. I wrote back and said, yes, let's talk about this. And so, Johnny, today's your day. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I've been listening for a while. I think I've heard about 20 episodes or so. I enjoy listening to it every now and then. I kind of need to take a break because it's a heavy subject. But yeah, no, it's a great podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. When people compliment the show, that's actually fuel for my soul to keep doing what I'm doing. Those kind of compliments and sentiments really do help me, and I appreciate you saying that, and I truly appreciate you reaching out to me.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm sure it can't be easy always having to hear these hard stories and listening to them over and over, I guess, while you're editing it, right? So
yeah, it does get kind of heavy sometimes, but on the other hand, like you just said, I know the show is helping people. Mm-hmm. I want to give credit where credit is due, and mostly that's to my guests who have the courage and fortitude to do like you're doing today and saying, hey, I'm ready to be on the show and tell my story and see if I can help other people. So thank you for doing that. And I know we've got some interesting aspects of your experience that I think the audience will really learn from and have something to listen to that they can relate to. A lot of people have probably been through some of the same experience or portions of the experience that you have. There's commonality in these types of stories. Before we get into the rape and sexual assault issues, Johnny, would you be willing to tell us about yourself? Give us some history on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am 21 now. I was born in Durango, Mexico, to a Mennonite family. I kind of moved back and forth from Canada, Mexico and Canada back and forth, and went to a private school in Canada, Christian private school. I had mostly a good childhood, but yeah, there was obviously a few bad things in there.
Yeah, so the issues are child sex assault issues.
Yeah.
What took you from Mexico up to Canada? How did that move occur?
My parents, they wanted to come out here because I guess it's a bit safer to raise their kids. There's a lot of violence in Mexico and stuff. It's easier to make money here. I had a few cousins and an uncle that were kidnapped in Mexico by the cartel for ransom. They all made it back alive, fortunately, but there was so much going on out there with gangs and murder and stuff like that. So my parents just wanted a bit of a safer life for us. So that's why we started coming to Canada.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just curious, do you still get back to Mexico every now and then?
Yes, I think the last time I was there was 2 years ago. I still have some family out there, and I went with my parents to visit them and stuff. So it was still a really good time, and I enjoy visiting them. But yeah, no, I think I prefer Canada though.
Yeah, since the cartels have pretty much taken over the entire country, it really makes sense to me about what you're saying in terms of family safety. So yeah, well, tell us more. What else is going on in your life?
No, so now I'm working all the time. I've got an amazing girlfriend. Just been hanging out with friends, trying to stay busy, and it's been good, staying happy most of the time. So
yeah. Do you want to talk about your work and what you do at all?
Yeah, it's pretty boring. It's just factory work. It's not too bad. I just kind of put my headphones on and listen to podcasts or music or something. So
When you say factory work, are you talking about manufacturing or assembly, or what kind of factory?
Yeah, it's like manufacturing. Well, I'm in the shipping side of the company,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't really put stuff together. I kind of just organize everything, ship it out, talk to people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you did mention that you've listened to about 20 episodes now of the show. How did you find sexual assault survivor stories in the first place?
I would say a bit over a year ago, I was just working and I was really depressed. I didn't think that anyone actually talked about stuff like this. And so I randomly stumbled upon do you know that the podcast Sword and Scale?
I have not heard of that, no.
It's a true crime podcast, has nothing to do with this, but they did an episode where they talked about male sexual abuse survivors. And so that led me down a whole rabbit hole of finding all these other podcasts, and yours was one of them. So started listening to it.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm glad you found the SAS podcast. Again, it really honors me to hear that it helped you. Johnny, what are you able to tell us about your rape and sexual assault experience?
Well, when I was 4 years old, around four, I was living in Mexico at the time. And this is actually my earliest memory, but there was another kid that it was my neighbor. I guess we were like playing doctor and stuff. And for the longest time, I thought this was just a weird memory, just some random thing that happened. But as I got older, I realized that this was, I guess, sexual assault. But like we were completely naked and she would use objects on me and in me. And as a child, I didn't know how to process it. And one time my mom almost walked in on what was happening. And I just remember feeling very ashamed and we didn't get caught. But I think that kind of rooted inside of me that this was something that I shouldn't talk about to my parents and that this was embarrassing and shouldn't be talked about. So yeah, that was my earliest memory, and I just have a lot of shame rooted in that. I didn't even talk about it until I think last year. So it took a while.
That's not uncommon. The audience needs to know that statistically speaking, that is not uncommon at all. I remember one statistic that I use quite frequently in my training is that generally it takes somewhere between 27 and 40 years for men to talk about having been raped or sexually assaulted. They carry that weight, that burden around for years. And that's longer than the general average number of years for women, which is closer to somewhere between 7 and 20 years. I know the reasons why, and it has to do with some societal issues and upbringing and the whole idea that men are supposed to be tough and that this doesn't happen to men. Are you able to talk about that and what you think your issues were with regard to not talking about what had happened to you when you were 4?
Yeah, it was, I think, the same thing. I thought that that's something that guys didn't talk about. I mean, it was embarrassing to me. I didn't even think about it as traumatizing. I thought that people would make fun of me if I told them or maybe not believe me. I just figured, you know what, if I just never bring this up, there's no point in bringing it up to anyone.
Yeah.
I thought I should just not talk about it.
Do you remember what it was that got you talking about it?
Yeah, I think it was hearing other people's stories and realizing that talking about stuff like this can make a huge impact on other people's lives.
Yeah, it can be cathartic for sure. Help us understand more about the whole process of hearing the show, wanting to reach out to me, and what that motivation and prompting was.
Well, I've had really good reactions in the past from telling my story. I've had people open up to me about their own stuff, like people that I've known all my life that I had no idea that had sexual abuse in their childhood or in their teenage years. They probably would have never told me if I hadn't told them first. So this way I can hopefully get more people to open up about their own stories.
Wow, Johnny, that's so commendable. Thank you for having that attitude, and wanting to help others is obviously the main aspect of this show. Thank you for taking advantage of having this platform.
I appreciate it.
In our previous conversations, you mentioned also another rape experience. Are you able to tell us
Yeah.
about that?
Yes. After I went to private school, I was about 13, and my family, we would always do field jobs, like work out in the fields in the summers and falls and stuff like that. I was working at one where my family wasn't working, it was just me. And A few of my friends were working there as well. I remember I would usually just be working with them. We'd just be having a good time. And it was kind of the same thing every day. But then one day, my boss asked me if I could help this older man out. He needed to drive out to a different field and he needed somebody to come with him. And I said, sure. Got me out of the barn, doing something else than the usual. So I was happy to do it. Yeah, I got in. I don't think I had really even had many conversations with this guy before. We started driving and he was just talking to me. He was being really nice. I remember he would swear a lot. He said the F word probably about every other word, but he was also at the same time telling me a bunch of stuff that didn't even make sense, stuff that I felt like he was lying about. Like one thing, he knew where I lived and he told me that before my family moved into that house, the people there had all their furniture stolen and they bought it again just to have it restolen like a little bit later. And that's why they sold the house. And that's why we bought it, which makes no sense. So I don't know what was up with this guy and just telling weird stuff. But he was, for the most part, he was just being super nice to me. We get out to the field and I'm helping him. He had to drive a tractor, load some stuff up, and he needed somebody to drive the truck while he was in the tractor. And so he let me do that, which I thought was really cool. I'm the youngest of 9 kids in my family. So it's kind of hard for my parents to, I guess, spend a lot of time with each of us. So I wasn't really close to my parents. So it was cool to have this older guy hang out with me, let me drive his truck. I thought that was really cool. I don't know how long we were out there, but we finished working. Afterward, we were going to go back to the barn, but he asked if it was okay if we were to stop at his house to grab some water. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. So we got to his house. He asked me if I wanted to come inside because he had dogs inside. And I said, sure. But then we got to the door and he never actually showed me the dogs, but I heard them. They were upstairs. And he asked me if I wanted to come down to his basement because he said he had a man cave and he had a bunch of movies down there. And I don't know if maybe I told him that I liked movies or something, but yeah, he told me that he had a lot of movies down there. So yeah, I was excited to check it out. I followed him and he had this huge man cave with huge couches. There was a projector coming out of the ceiling. He had VHS tapes all over the room. It was a really cool place. This was all blocked out for a while. But yeah, so my memory, I guess, blocked it out for a while because it was traumatic. But he took off his clothes, took off my clothes, and we were on the couch. He was touching me. He was saying a bunch of stuff to me about me liking what he was doing, telling me that I liked it, telling me that I was a good little boy. It turned into rape. He raped me. I don't even remember going back to the barn. I don't remember. I have no memory of the rest of the day or anything like that. But I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends. My family, I guess the way we grew up, my parents never talked to me about anything like this. So I didn't think that this was something that I could talk to them about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept it all in, I guess, to myself.
Johnny, this is obviously really hard for you to talk about, and that makes perfect sense. And this is extremely traumatic. I'm wondering, are you aware of the process that activated those memories as far as them coming back to you? When did that start, and what do you interpret as being the source of why those memories came to light?
As I got older, I pretty much refused to believe that I was sexually assaulted. I thought that that was definitely not what happened. But I went to this Christian men's retreat in 2023. And when I was out there, I was just thinking about it. I accepted that probably had happened to me. And literally right after that, I had some flashbacks of him taking his clothes off and stuff like that. That is when it started, I guess, the flashbacks.
What did you do with that information, those memories that were coming to light?
I didn't do anything with it for a while. I didn't tell anyone. I think it might have been a few months after that or a year later. So I briefly texted a friend and I guess we were having probably a deep conversation or something. I don't remember what the context was, but I told him that when I was a kid, this guy had molested me and he wanted to know more. And I basically just shut down and I stopped talking and I just said, never mind. I didn't want to talk about it. Then in 2024, I went to another one of these men's retreats and I told this one older man there, I just thought, you know what, maybe I should just bring it up just because maybe it would be healthier for me than to just keep it all in. And I didn't really expect anything to happen, but I think I said like 5 words and I just started crying and I couldn't stop. For probably about 20 minutes, I just couldn't stop crying. And he was very nice about it. And he just hugged me and prayed for me. And it was an amazing experience.
What were the feelings when you first, before 2024 occurred and these memories were in there and you didn't tell anybody? Are you able to talk to us about the impact that those memories had without being able to tell anybody?
Oh, yeah, it had a huge effect on me. All throughout high school, I was very depressed. I had one real friend during high school, and he was most of the time he wasn't there. So I would just be completely by myself with my headphones on, didn't talk to anyone except for maybe the teachers. I always was able to act happy in front of my friends and family. They never suspected anything, but as soon as I was alone, most of the time I was crying. I was depressed. I wanted to die. When I was 17, I think, or 18, that's when the depression got really, really bad. I was drinking all the time. This one night, I got completely wasted and went out with my car, went to the town that I live nearby, which I don't even remember getting there. But on the way back, my friend that didn't realize that I was drunk was driving behind me and he kind of pulled up next to me as we were driving and started to race me. I raced him and I live in Canada, so it's kilometers, but he told me later we were going over 200 kilometers an hour down the road, but I wasn't doing it to race him. I was doing it because I wanted to die. I was hoping that I was just going to crash into a tree or something and just be able to get out. Um, but that didn't happen. Somehow I got home and still here. I was smoking weed a lot when I turned 19. I was getting high almost every day. It helped for a while. It was good. But then after maybe a few months or so, it just made me have so much more anxiety. I couldn't sleep. I was just crying. I was even more depressed than when I wasn't high. So I stopped smoking weed. I didn't really have any other coping mechanisms than weed and drinking for a bit and isolation. I was always isolating myself too. After a while, I guess when I started to tell people, that's when it became a lot easier to be around people and not isolate myself as much, although I still do have that problem where I
Yeah.
like to isolate myself.
Yeah. And that makes sense too. Tell us about, if you could, what that felt like when you did start telling people. Who was the first person you told, in terms of being able to keep going once that emotion was there and you were able maybe to finish the story? How did that feel, and what was that like for you?
The first time that I fully told somebody was the man at that men's retreat. So I was crying, but I was also telling him about what happened.
Mm.
And that whole thing took about 20 minutes maybe, but it was like the biggest relief I think of my life. Just this huge burden off of me. It felt like, okay, this it's okay to talk about this. Like people aren't gonna just judge me for it. I mean, there had been somebody in the past that had I briefly mentioned it and they made a joke about it 5 minutes later. And so I was scared to tell people about it. But this guy, he had the perfect response, I guess. It was exactly what I needed. And after that, it was not nearly as hard anymore to bring it up to people.
What does bring it up, and how is it that you have the opportunity to tell people?
I often have really deep conversations with people some that I barely know, some that I know well. And I don't know, my friends tell me it's easy to open up to me, but sometimes if we're having something like that and I'll tell them about what happened to me, and then that'll help them open up much more about their own stories. It's not always about sexual assault. It'll just be whatever's on their mind. For me now, telling my story, using it as something to help other people open up, it's barely even a burden anymore to carry if I just use it that way.
Can you talk then more about the impact that finding this podcast had when you started listening to other people's stories? How did that make you feel?
It made me feel heard and not alone in this world, because I didn't think that there was a platform where people actually talked about stuff like this. I thought it was just something that no one was talking about. Hearing everyone else's stories, it's just a huge relief because it helps you realize that you're not alone. Everyone's story is different, but it usually has similar impacts on your life. It's just very relatable to listen to for sure.
Yeah. I mentioned that a lot, that every person's rape, sex assault experience is unique and important and deserves to be heard. But through all of that, there are some commonalities, some threads that people can relate to, which I think is part of what makes this show so powerful, is that which you said made an impact on you and helped you, which was, yeah, I felt a connection. I felt like, yeah, people do talk about this. It's really interesting to hear that aspect of you bringing that up and saying, yeah, this is something that has enabled me and helped me
Yeah.
talk about that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
for sure.
Yeah, that's really good. It's a cathartic experience, as I mentioned.
But my family, some of them still don't know, but some of them do. For the longest time, I thought that I would never tell any of them about it because I didn't want them to feel sorry for me, or I didn't want them to think that it was their fault or that they could have protected me. I'm the youngest of nine, so I don't know. I feel like some of them would think that they should have been able to protect me, but it's not any of their fault. Now that I have told quite a few of them, and I've had only great responses, so it definitely helps as well.
You mentioned a word earlier, shame,
Mm.
that you were overwhelmed with that shame. What did you do with the shame? How did you get past it?
I just figured there was nothing to really be ashamed of. It wasn't something that I had wanted to do. It wasn't something for me to be embarrassed about. It was his issue, his garbage that I don't know why he would have decided to do that, but that wasn't on me. It wasn't my fault. I blamed myself for it for a very long time. I thought it was all my fault. I still sometimes feel shame about it. And it's not that it has gone completely away. Same with the guilt. Sometimes it keeps coming back. I don't know what it is, but it keeps telling me that, of course, I could have done something. But no, it doesn't make sense to. I've told some people about it that I felt like it was my fault and it didn't make sense to them. They thought, how could that ever have been your fault? Which I guess it helps to hear that. But the shame, most of it, I think, is all gone now. It's not like I'm going out on my Instagram and just being like, "Hey guys, I got sexually abused when I was a kid," but still, like it's not that bad for me to talk about it anymore. The most of the shame, I think, is gone.
It sounds like what you're saying is that the fact that if it does come up, there isn't any shame now to say, yeah, that happened to me.
Yeah.
Here's what it did to me. Here's how it impacted me. And I
Hmm.
think that's a critical point that you have to accept and get past in order to further process that healing. And the fact that you got to that point and did heal enough to say, hey, this wasn't my fault, I think may have a lot to do with your spiritual outlook. Am I right on that?
Yeah, for sure. Because, yeah, definitely God has helped me a lot during my whole journey. And it's definitely helped me to see that stuff like this, it's terrible that stuff like this happens, but you can do good with your story and you can still help people. It's not all bad.
Right.
Because
I've
for
had,
the longest time, I couldn't understand why anything like this could ever happen to anyone. But now that I've seen the good parts of it, having people open up to me, I understand now. God didn't want this to happen to me, but I can still use it for good.
absolutely. I've had some of my guests tell me that they would not wish this on anybody. Who would, except maybe a
Mhm.
perpetrator. But
Yeah.
but that those who have come to a point of acceptance of what happened have used that to say, I feel part of a community now. And I don't like that I'm part of this community in the sense that we've all been raped or sexually assaulted, but I am glad that I'm part of this community because it's such a great support system. So
Yeah,
that
100%.
yeah, so that good aspect of it is very interesting, I think, to a lot of people who maybe have never been sexually assaulted or raped and may have some difficulty in understanding why somebody would say, yeah, I'm not glad it happened, but since it did, I'm going to use this in a positive way. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so I'm in this group chat on Facebook of male survivors of sexual abuse. Anyone can type in anytime they want, whatever they want. It's a great support system. Everyone kind of encourages each other when they're feeling down. And I've also been able to just meet people in real life, have coffee with them, men that have been sexually abused as children. Sometimes it affects me, it makes me cry too, but
Mm,
it's not because it's not going to make me depressed. It's just I'm glad that I can be there for others and that they are going to be there for me and we can just all support each other.
that's amazing. I love hearing that. I'm really happy that that is an aspect of your life. Talk to us more then about that healing process. What do you do when those emotions do come up? Just a little bit ago, I mean, I could tell it was an overwhelming aspect, and sometimes that happens, you said.
Yeah. I do have a therapist that I don't go to often anymore, but I like every time if I'm feeling very overwhelmed, I can text him and just ask him if we can meet up. And he says, yeah, and we can just talk. Or my pastor, he's super nice and he knows about it as well. Just the other night, I went over to his place. We had coffee for about an hour. We just talked. People like that have definitely kept me, I think, sane throughout everything that's been going on.
It's absolutely encouraging to hear that that's going on in your life. I should have asked this earlier, but I'm wondering, did that recollection of the rape that occurred when you were 13, did that activate any other memories of rape or sexual assault? Or do you think that you have actually recalled all that has happened to you in terms of rape or sexual assault?
I've thought about that very much as well, actually. There's so much of my childhood that I can't remember. I've thought about what if there was more that I don't know about. I'm not sure if there is. Just like that one day at that man's house, I don't think I still can't remember everything that happened, but I remember most of it, I think. But that's a very good question. I wonder about that all the time, actually.
Here's what I think. Based on my past experience with rape and sexual assault, being an investigator, learning from some of the best neuroscientists and psychologists in the world that I've had the opportunity to be a student of that process of getting educated about rape and sexual assault and the neuroscience of trauma, it strikes me that because you have become so open in your own mindset and recognized that you were a victim and now you're a survivor who has started that healing process, that generally will open the mind up to other experiences because you've learned how those coping mechanisms work and you know what to do if those memories do come up. There's a good possibility that you have discovered everything that there is to discover in terms of rape or sexual assault, even though there are memory blanks in your mind of your childhood. Those don't necessarily mean that that was sexual or abusive that had been covered up. There could be other aspects of trauma or fear that have nothing to do with rape or sexual assault. So it's interesting to me to hear you talk about that and the realizations that you've come to.
Yeah, I definitely hope that there wasn't more sexual assault in my childhood. I mean, there has been a little bit in my as an adult actually, but not like rape or anything, just being groped or something when I'm drunk. I had this girl who was high and was trying to have sex with me and it just completely triggered me. I literally just ran away. It really messed me up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I woke up also at a party to being groped by a man that screwed me up as well. And then exactly 1 week later, it happened again, except I wasn't sleeping. I was just, I don't know, walking around or something, and somebody was behind me and it happened. But stuff like that, I guess it just still triggers me. And for, I feel like a lot of men that probably take it as a joke or whatever. But I think for people that have been through sexual abuse, it's a lot different.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard me talk about this or not, but in the trauma response and the way the mind works with memory is that there's an aspect of memory called explicit memory and an aspect of memory called implicit memory. Explicit memories are memories that you know you have. You can talk about them. They're in your mind and you recall them and you talk about them. The other part is the implicit memory. And oftentimes talking about the explicit memories like you have just done will activate those implicit memories. And so other things will start coming to your remembrance, to your active remembrance, and you'll be able to process those and eventually get to the point where you can talk about them. What will you do when we're done with this conversation as those implicit memories start coming to light and becoming explicit memories? How will you deal with that? What will you do to take care of yourself through that process?
Well, I will try and process that. And if I need to, I guess I'll probably book another therapy session. He's helped me through a lot of stuff. So that's probably what I would be doing.
Yeah. What will you do for the rest of tonight after we get done?
I'm not sure yet, honestly. Probably
Yeah.
go home and watch something on Netflix, maybe.
Yeah. Just something to take your mind off of what we're here doing right now, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you do have coping mechanisms in place then, from what you're explaining to me.
Yeah, I do a lot of journaling as well. And my girlfriend, she knows about my past and we can talk about it. And she's not at all judgmental. So she's great that I can just talk to her about it.
Well, I can't thank you enough, again, as I mentioned earlier, for being here and being willing to talk about this. It's been amazing and it's been very helpful. I know that your story is going to have an impact on many of the listeners that tune into this show. I also think it's going to have an impact on your life, and that you'll grow from this and that you'll experience even more healing because of the fact that you found it within yourself to tell the world about what happened.
I appreciate you giving me this platform so that I can talk about it for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any hopes and desires for what comes out of this other than anything that we've already talked about?
One thing that I really enjoy is when people, they tell me that my story affected them in some way or something, and maybe that'll happen. Maybe I'll get a message or something, but that helps me out a lot too, probably more than they realize.
Yeah. How would you feel if someone contacted me and said, "Hey, Dave, I want to get in touch with Johnny"? Would you allow me to direct them to you?
Yeah, 100%. Anyone can feel free to text me if you want. You can even put my Instagram handle in the description and anyone can reach out to me if they want.
Great. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I do hope that that community of support for you grows as a result of you being here today. I can't thank you enough. Would you entertain the idea of coming back on the show?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds fine to me, yeah.
Yeah, good. Appreciate you reaching out to me the way you did and for your courage and fortitude in telling your story here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave.
That does it for another episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast. Kudos and deep appreciation go out to Johnny Braun. Obviously, this wasn't easy for Johnny to do, as you could tell at several points in this conversation. But Johnny stuck at it, even when I asked him if he wanted to do this some other time. He said no and persevered through the entire episode. Thank you, Johnny. You did an amazing job in recording this conversation. And to you, my SAS listeners, thank you also for being part of today's show by being here. I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you. Please drop me a quick email if you appreciate what's happening on this show, and let me know if you'd like to be a guest and share your survival story and healing journey. My email address is in the episode notes. And a reminder, Johnny would also like to hear from you. You can direct message him through Instagram, and he encourages you to contact him. Don't forget to tune in next week when I'll be bringing you another episode highlighting strength and courage from someone who reached out to me. It's a special plea for support, and you won't want to miss the captivating story behind the request. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and remember to start by believing when anyone tells you their story of being raped or sexually assaulted, because we all know someone whose life has been impacted by rape or sexual assault. We'll see you next week.